Hello folks, and welcome back to the channel. I think it was Chairman Mao that said a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I don't know whether Chairman Mao was a street photographer, I'm guessing not, but I do know that that single step, the very first step of any journey, particularly when you're starting a new experience, can actually be an extremely big step, or at least feel like a really big step. I know when I started this photography channel that I wanted to have everything perfect before I got going, but if I'd actually waited for perfection, I would never have got going in the first place. The good news is that with street photography, it's actually easy to get out and capture life as it unfolds and tell stories through your lens. And in this video, I'm going to share some essential tips and tricks that every beginner needs to get them out there. So, grab your camera, leave your worries on the doorstep, and let's take a stroll through the exciting world of street photography. So here we go then. Tip number 1. Know your gear. It doesn't matter whether you're shooting with a top of the range camera, with a 40-year-old film camera, with a smartphone, or a bow tie that's really a camera. The key is to know your camera inside out. Modern camera menus can be really complicated. They can involve digging through screen after screen after screen. They often have things on there that you really don't need. The classic being video. Unless you're going to be filming video, you don't need video on your camera. But if you're going to be shooting streets, you need to know where all of the right settings are for what you want. You need to be able to find your way around. And the key thing is, I guess, to learn where everything is so that you can access those things at speed. You need to understand your settings. You need to understand aperture, you need to understand shutter, and you need to understand ISO. I'll say more about aperture in another video, and I'll probably say more about the other things too, but a good starting point is to set your camera to aperture priority if you have it. Set the aperture to f8 and let the camera do the heavy lifting. F8 will get you started with some sharp images front to back, and you can learn the rest as you go. But as I said, the key thing is to get out there. More about aperture another time. Tip number 2, keep it simple. You only need a single lens. 35mm is what I've got on at the moment. It's nice to have other lenses and you've got that option, but you've got to carry them around. And the more you've got to carry around, the heavier it's going to be. And actually staying comfortable is important. So a single lens will do. I very often shoot with the 28, probably my go-to lens at the moment, but sometimes I change my mind. Put that up there for now. Can go wider. 24mm is good on the tube where you want to get a good breadth into your image, good bit of width, and still get close to people. Or maybe a 50, a nifty 50. And occasionally I want to shoot a bit longer with a 90. I'll say more about all the different focal lengths in another video, but you really only need one. And what I would recommend is really get to know that lens. Those lengths of lens, 28, 35, 50, are really good for capturing your environment without intruding too much into people's lives. But work that one lens so that you know what it looks like. And if you're only taking one lens, you may not even need a bag. You certainly don't need a huge bag. It's not landscape photography where you're carrying, I don't know, tripods and huge lenses of different focal lengths and zoom lenses. You don't need that. You need one single lens. You may not need a bag. I'd recommend a jacket, particularly in this country. You never know when there's going to be a sudden downpour or a drop in temperature, but actually a jacket is a really good place to pop a spare battery. And I'll give you a couple of tips about batteries. I either wrap them in an elastic band or put them in one of these little cash bags that you can get from a bank, and then I know which batteries are charged, and when I've used the battery I simply take off the bag off the band. Obviously take it off the band, take the band off it to put it in the camera, and then I put it away in the bag without the band on it so that I know that that battery has already been used, or if it's still in the bag, then that's a fresh battery. Once it's out of the bag, it's no longer fresh, and that will save you any confusion. But I always carry 2 spare batteries with me on a day of street photography. I've already said a little bit about being comfortable, but being comfortable is so important, because if you're going to be out for 3, 4, 5, 10 hours on the street, the last thing you want is to be losing inspiration, losing creativity, losing your mojo just because your shoes are pinching, your back's tired, you're carrying too much kit. You want to be light and free and easy to move. So comfortable shoes, trainers, my go-to pair, this battered old pair of DM Doc Martin boots, which have strong soles. They don't slip when it's wet. They're waterproof, really, really comfortable. I'd certainly recommend them, but keep it simple. Tip number 3 is to master the art of observation. Street photography is all about capturing moments. What does that mean? It means the best pictures are taken when the composition is right, the light is just so, and there's something that has caught the eye. A kiss, a puff of cigarette smoke, an umbrella passing through a frame, whatever. You will know it when you see it. So spend time observing your surroundings. What's the light doing? Who's coming and going? Move around and try different views, different angles, different perspectives. But above all, try to anticipate. Somebody lighting a cigarette is going to breathe in and they're going to breathe out. One of those 3 things is going to give you the best image. Chances are it's the out-breath with the puff of smoke. A couple meeting on a street, chances are there's going to be an embrace, a handshake. Those are the key moments. But you need to be patient. It's about seeing stories unfold. Be ready to click that shutter at the right moment. And if all those things are in place, you may just have what Henri Cartier-Bresson called the decisive moment. That moment when everything comes together. Tip number 4, understand the law and ethics. It's really important to be respectful of people's privacy and of their dignity. Very often the most vulnerable people can be easy targets. Homeless people on the street, for example. They're not going anywhere, they're there. It doesn't make it right. That person is someone's brother or sister, their mother or father, their son or daughter. Think about how you would feel. If someone is uncomfortable with you filming them, then don't do it. Empathy goes a long way in street photography. So morally, there are lots of things that we could shoot, but we maybe shouldn't. And I'm sure you can think of far more examples than I've given. Legally, it can be a different matter. Laws differ from country to country. You need to be aware of the laws in the country where you are shooting at the time. But generally, you can shoot street photography in a public place. Having said that, it's not always clear what a public place is. In London, for example, some of the streets, the near side to the buildings, can belong to the company that owns the building. It is not a public space, and you may be moved. Those little brass dots in the pavement that you may have seen in the city delineate that. Very often a shopping mall is privately owned and the over-efficient security guard may move you on because you actually don't have the right to be shooting there. It helps to know those things, but generally out in public places you should be fine. You might find that you're asked to stop and to delete an image. Nobody can confiscate your equipment or insist that you delete, no matter how hard they try. But I would suggest that if someone is unhappy with an image that you've taken and wants you to delete, then really you should. Tip number 5, be discreet. The best images are often when people are unaware that their picture has been taken. That doesn't mean going around being sneaky. That just leads people to be suspicious of you and what you're doing. But if you can somehow remain hidden in plain sight, inconspicuous, blending in, perhaps spending quite a while there so that people get used to you, then you are going to be in the best position to capture those images, those moments that you want without people being self-conscious or overly aware of you. You want to be the fly on the wall. So blend in. Don't let your camera stand out. And you can start by wearing dark clothes. Another trick is to shoot from the hip rather than bringing the camera to your eye. When you shoot from the hip, which is something I do a lot, people are not even realizing that you're taking a photograph. I will very often walk through a crowded, busy street and be shooting from the hip with my thumb on the shutter button. Turn off any sounds. You do not want your camera bleeping or making even shutter noises. Some cameras, most modern cameras, do have a silent shutter. Turn that on, the silent shutter. Turn it on, turn it off. Make it silent. Another trick is to perhaps, when you're framing up an image and you are bringing your camera to your eye, keep looking behind you, beyond you rather, keep looking in that shot, into that image, as the person coming towards you goes by. They may think, oh, what's that guy doing taking a picture of me? But if you keep your camera there as they go by, they're going to think, oh, actually, it probably wasn't of me. In fact, most people assume that they're in the way of your camera rather than the subject of your camera. Most people don't imagine that you would be taking a picture of them. Another thing you can do is play the incompetent novice. So you're fiddling around with your camera and you're looking and you're taking a picture there and another one there, and all the time you're looking at it as though you've just had this thing appear in your hands and you don't know what on earth it is. So that's a good trick. Another one that I often do is I'll have the phone in one hand, I'll be pointing down the street and I'll be sending a message, and as people are coming along I'm doing that. Or even I could be talking on the phone while I'm taking my images. Yep, I'll see you about then. Yep, I'm just at the corner of that one. Yeah, where we met last time, you know. It works. Trust me. Tip number 6 is to edit and curate your images. As street photographers, we harvest a huge number of images. A day on the street can lead you to bringing home 500, 600, 1,000 images. Most of them are rubbish. You'll reject them. That is the way to get better, but you won't necessarily get a better return on your images. You will still find very few keepers from a day out and about. Take your time to go through what you've got. If you can, I would suggest, rather than getting straight home, whacking them onto the computer or onto the phone or the iPad or whatever it might be, leave them. Leave them for a day, leave them for a week, leave them for months if you can, because the longer you leave them, the more objective you will be about looking at your images. If you spent 45 minutes standing in a street waiting for something to happen, you're going to be more invested in making sure that image works. But actually, with the hindsight of a month or two, you may look at that image and think, no, I really didn't get anything there. It's not worth spending time on. So if you can leave them to marinate for a while and stew, then you'll probably be able to come back and look at them more objectively. When you do, rate them or color code them, whatever system works for you, so that you can then filter out the ones that you want to work on. Then you go to work. And actually, the editing is part of the fun for me, just as much fun as being out there shooting. It's the time when I refine my vision. It's the time when I get to work on making the image look like what it felt like to be there. I can show what it felt like. Simple adjustments to exposure, to contrast, possibly a crop, can make a big difference to your images and help you show the street as you felt it at the time. Tip number 7 is keep learning and stay inspired. If you're starting out on street photography, you're going to be enthusiastic. Feed that enthusiasm. Street photography is a dynamic experience and it's a continuous learning journey. Something will have attracted you to street photography, and it's probably the work of others, perhaps on Instagram, perhaps on other social media. Look at what it is that they're doing that you find attractive. Study the street photography masters. Got a few books here: Gary Winogrand, Vivian Mayer, Henri Cartier-Bresson, Saul Leiter. Books are fantastic because you can spend time going through them at your leisure, at the pace that you want, looking at the images, really studying them and working out what makes that image resonate for you. Films, TV programs, they are all ways of feeding your creative mind. Music, the theatre, pictures, paintings, other art forms can inspire you as well. But every shot that you take is a step on your journey, even the ones that you throw away. So, keep learning, stay inspired. The beauty of street photography lies in its unpredictability. It's about finding something ordinary and glimpsing the magic in it, bringing unique stories to life. So, get out there, keep your eyes open and have fun learning to really see the world around you. If you enjoyed these tips, then make sure that you like, that you subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated on all my videos. Now, go and take that step. Take care.